guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. This is from a guy. He is from over in Thailand, and he's sharing a story about how 14 years ago he met this woman on a dating website from another country, and they obviously hit it off, and ultimately one day it leads to them meeting. And as you can imagine, just like how all things start off, it was amazing and magical and wonderful. The sex was amazing, all that. She was smoking hot, and he was on cloud nine. But there were red flags. There were definite red flags he chose to ignore, and eventually they started getting serious, went downhill. And unfortunately, the guy put up with a lot of crap he shouldn't have. And I might add, she had some serious, I repeat, serious daddy issues. And you know how I feel about that, guys. So this story here is really good to show you guys just how important it is to pay attention to red flags. That way you save yourself a whole lot of frustration and hurt and pain and all this stuff and wasted time. That's one lesson in this video. And there's other lessons as well, as beware of gals with daddy issues. Beware what happens when you give women everything, as you're going to see this guy, because he becomes mesmerized by her good looks and how she treats him. He starts to put her on a pedestal and give her everything. And also what happens, guys, when you start over pursuing and chasing the woman versus having her chasing after you and giving her a lot of certainty in a relationship. You go from literally being treated like the king to being treated like a jester like that. Again, I didn't create women. I'm not God. I'm not the creator. I just report back how it is, the reality, the ugly truth, if you will. But anyhow, guys, I will point out these little things that I'm mentioning here, these lessons, as I go throughout the story, and then refocus and cover it again at the very end. So, starts off, he says, Hi SSM, hello from Thailand. I'm English and retired here 3 years ago, but the story I want to tell you started 14 years ago when I was living in Spain, but working in Africa. Damn, dude, you get around. So you live in Thailand, you're English, lived in Spain, and worked in Africa. That's pretty cool. That's an adventurous life. He says, I was 44 and single, never married, with no children and no ties. Well, that sounds like the life. Why'd you screw it up? Just messing with you. I had my own place by the sea in Spain and was working in the oil industry in Angola. So plenty of money and plenty of time off to see the world and have great adventures. Of course, at the time, I knew nothing of the R pill. I'm not saying I was a blue pill dummy. I wasn't any mug, especially when it comes to women, but I didn't know about many red flags women have back then. Don't feel bad, man. Most people don't. You have to live and learn, and then when you start hearing other stories and seeing similarities, that's when all the dots connect. He says, when out on the rig, there would often be slow times, and I had an internet connection in my office, and I would sometimes while away the quiet hours surfing the internet, putting together my next trip or choosing which expensive toy to buy next. I'd also look at online dating sites. It was by this method that I met my first and only wife. We'll call her Victoria. That's a very ironic name, as she hated Queen Victoria for the Boer War. Victoria was from German stock, born in, and bear with me as I try to pronounce this word, Windhoek, Namibia, but then living in Cape Town, South Africa. She was 25, blonde, striking looking in a very Germanic way, cool blue eyes, high cheekbones, strong jaw, smart, and funny. Physically, she was just my type. I like girls with some meat on the bone, particularly in the chest area, and Victoria certainly fit the bill. Well, me too, bro. Just sounds like my type. So we started off just messaging each other on the dating site, but soon this turned into emails, sometimes quite long, covering all manners of topics. Victoria was an artist, or at least that's what she called herself. I was and am still interested in art, so we had a connection there. Well, so far so good. They haven't actually met yet, but you can see here, because of her looks, he's immediately roped in. At the end of the day, we are visual creatures, guys. So my month in the rig came to an end. It was just before Christmas 2007. So instead of heading back to Spain, I flew to England to see my family and spend Christmas with them. I forgot all about Victoria until I got back home to Spain and found about 20 emails from her. That's a red flag, guys. A couple emails, okay. But 20 emails? Somebody's clingy. Somebody's needy. These range from casual hi there to where have you gone and why have you abandoned me? You have to remember this is before smartphones. My parents didn't have an internet connection and I'd been busy having a jolly time with my mates over the new year, so I hadn't been online much. So it was a bit of a shock when I read Victoria's emails. Failing to spot the red flags flying high, I responded saying I didn't realize she was interested in me, to which she replied that of course she was and wanted to meet me. So basically, I was on a promise from a hot chick 20 years younger than me. So if she was just average looking, I'm willing to bet you this guy probably would have handled the situation different. But because she's just his type, obviously smoking hot, tall, blonde, big boobs, and not to mention the fact 20 years younger than him, big prize there. The fact that she sent him 20 emails and why have you abandoned me and things like that, he was just like, oh, let it go, no problem. That's a major red flag, guys. Again, if it was a couple emails, okay. You know, he said it was before smartphones and his parent didn't have internet access, but 20 emails, that's psycho. Unfortunately, because the guy obviously was so hypnotized by her looks, he let that slide. Big mistake. Red flags, guys, pay attention. He continues, I was due back in Angola in about a week, so I jumped on a flight to Cape Town to meet Victoria. Well, Victoria certainly kept her promise, repeatedly and passionately. I'm sure you guys can connect the dots by what he means there. In between times, I hired a car and we toured around Western Cape, the Winelands, the Garden Route, and the, see if I can pronounce this right, the Langbahn on the wild Atlantic coast. So we had a great time, and ultra romantic, and I must admit I was very taken by Victoria. All too soon, I need to be back in Angola, so we kissed goodbye in Cape Town as I got the flight to Luanda. So far so good. Aside from the psycho 20 emails, he went to see her anyway. And of course, she was obviously smoking hot in person, and they had a great time. They were hooking up, effing like bananas, and seeing the country, and it was all ultra romantic, like out of a movie. Notice, again, because she is obviously chasing after him. Now, he went and saw her, but still, believe me, she's pursuing him. He's in the driver's seat. But then, just like many situations where in the beginning everything's great, reality will start to set in pretty soon. He says, in the week that we had together, we both found out a lot about each other. Victoria had a younger sister. Her mother had divorced her father and left Namibia for South Africa and had married Victoria's stepdad a few years later. Her mother and stepfather had built up a business and were very prosperous. Victoria never talked much about her education, but I got the impression she didn't have a good time at school and she had trouble with the local church also. Trouble with the local church? Could this be another red flag? She said they were a very small-minded, small-town folk, and Victoria's free spirit didn't go well with them. Well, we all know what free spirit is code for. That's another word for saying usually carousel rider, amongst many other things. More red flags. If you're constantly in conflict with people around you, it's probably because there's something wrong with you, not with them. So another big red flag that this guy had, but obviously looked beyond because of her big German boobs, and she's 20 years younger than him and all that. It's amazing what we will let go, guys, for a smoking hot younger woman. Gotta pay attention. Now on to the meat of the story, the truth about her biological father. And here, guys, is where you're going to see where the daddy issues come in. And notice when she was emailing him 20 times about how, why have you abandoned me? Girls with daddy issues have abandonment issues and things like that. I can't say how much of the following is true, but it is faithfully told from what Victoria told me. As mentioned earlier, Victoria had been born in Windhoek, Namibia in 1982, and her sister in 1984. Her biological father was, by all accounts, a great dad. He was an architect, so clearly intelligent and well-educated. A picture of a happy young family with a bright future ahead. At that time, the South African border war was drawing towards its bloody end. This war was a proxy between the Soviet Russia and USA fought over Southern Africa. It was a cluster F, much like Vietnam. No war is ever good, but the South African border war ranks as one of the worst and went on from 1966 to 1990. Victoria's father was conscripted to fight in the war, so off he went, leaving his family behind. When he returned, he was a changed man. On top of the PTSD, he was near psychotic due to the drugs. I'm going to say that, I can't pronounce it right. The drugs he had been forced to take. He was drinking heavily and had become violent and hostile. Fearing for her safety and that of her children, Victoria's mother fled, taking her girls with her. That sucks. That's really a bad situation. These guys come back from war and are completely screwed up. And of course, a lot of times these guys come back from war and the government's like, you're on your own. We don't need you anymore. It says, Victoria's mother fled, taking her girls with her. Victoria's father had gotten his GUN and went to chase his wife and daughters, vowing to off them. There followed a tense couple of months where Victoria's mother hid out in a succession of friends' houses, just about managing to stay one step ahead of her husband. Eventually, she ended up in Cape Town and managed to start divorce proceedings. On the day the divorce was finalized, Victoria's father turned his GUN on himself, and that was the end of him. So, do you think there might be some daddy issues here? As I said before, I didn't know any R pill back then, so I just thought it was another African tragedy. Well, regardless of the woman's issues, which you're going to hear more of, guys, that really is a shame. I mean, really. You know, this guy, they were obviously a very happy young family, and he goes off to war, comes back screwed up, doesn't get the care he needs, and all that happened. I mean, that's really sad. You know, and it's not the girl's fault. But how we choose to handle ourselves as adults is a different ballgame. He says, let me just make sure I didn't skip something here. Okay. He says, I decided now here's the part where this guy starts really messing up. He says, I decided to shut up my house in Spain and move to Cape Town to be with Victoria. Not good, dude. You're going to her on her turf. She's so into you, she should be coming to you. Because remember, guys, if a woman is really into you, believe me, she will pick up and move anywhere to be with you. She'll quit her job, leave her country, change religions, ditch her family, ditch her kids, break you out of jail. You've heard plenty of stories like this in the news, guys. So if this woman's this into him, she can come to him in Spain. Instead, he's going to her. And this is where the problems are going to start to happen, because now he's chasing after her and put her on the pedestal. And remember in the beginning, when he went to Cape Town, how she was treating him great, and they're hooking up left and right, and it was a magical thing. Now he's going to her on her turf, and watch the change. He says, I moved to Cape Town, Victoria. I stayed there in 2008 and 2009, and at first it was great, but eventually Victoria would start fights, often where she would become violent, and I have to leave to prevent serious escalation. Imagine that. Everything was great, and now her true colors are coming out. A lot of times women, when they get bored, or they got serious daddy issues or other things like that, they'll create drama in the situation. They may want to often push the guy away out of fear that he'll leave them, right? They'll pick these fights or to test to see how much he really cares. If I pick a big fight with him and create a lot of drama and he stays with me no matter what I do, then he must really love me. No man needs that kind of drama in their life, but this is what he's getting, and it gets worse. He says, these fights were generally about how I wasn't providing enough for her. This guy works on an oil rig. They make good darn money. He wasn't providing enough for her, and her family was prosperous. It's not that I wasn't providing. We had a great apartment in the heart of Cape Town. I paid all the bills. We ate out almost every night. We would often take trips away, and anything she wanted, I gave her. Mistake. By the way, they're not married. He's just there living with his boyfriend and girlfriend. Doesn't she have a job? Can't she get off her big blonde butt and go get a job? Come on here. How is she providing for herself prior to this dude moving there? Come on here. But the problem is, he said right here, I was giving her anything she wanted. Translation, treating her like the queen, put her on the pedestal, rewarding bad behavior, and obviously staying with her when she's starting all these fights and sometimes he said getting violent. No self-respecting guy would have put up with that crap. All right? Weak guys do that. And I don't mean to be insulting to the guy that wrote the story. I really am not, but I'm being brutally honest here. And I will to bet you that if she wasn't as good looking, or this guy wasn't as hypnotized by her beauty and all that he would probably been like, hey, come live with me in Spain. If not, hey, whatever. And if she started drama and fighting, he'd been like, see ya. When guys are so just in love or infatuated or mesmerized by the woman's beauty and the things about her, they let shit slide, and that's when it gets worse and worse and worse. You gotta be willing to walk away. Any bad behavior, any disrespect, I'll walk away. And of course, pay attention to the red flags. Can't stress that enough. Anyhow, it goes on. He says, but no matter what, it was never enough. I grew sick of being told I wasn't man enough for her, i.e. not a good enough provider, so my job ended in Angola. I said goodbye to Victoria for the last time. Well, good. Good for you. You finally left and walked away. Unfortunately, guys, that's not where the story ends. It continues, the following 6 months, I became depressed and lonely. I was back in my house by the sea in Spain and was working the Middle East, but I missed Victoria. Eventually, I paid for Victoria to join me in Spain, but because of visa issues, she could only stay for 3 months out of 6. Dude, after all that drama and turmoil, you still brought her to come live with you in Spain? Some people have to learn the hard way. You know, a lot of people will have relationships and they go south and they break up. And after a while, people tend to focus on all the good stuff and forget all the really bad stuff that caused them to break up to begin with. They call it the rose-colored glasses. You know, I've done this crap. I'll be perfectly honest and I'll admit that. You can't let this stuff go. But he learns the hard way. So, Victoria comes to Spain. And it says here, this didn't work out, so in 2010, we were married back in South Africa. You married this crazy girl? It didn't work the first time. You think, oh, because if we get married, then things will be different and things will get better. As you all know from either life experience or the stories I've done, usually when they put a ring on the girl's finger, it gets even worse. And can you take a wild guess how things are going to go now that she has a ring on her finger and certainty? You don't want a woman to have certainty. You want her to have uncertainty. It sounds mean, and I get that, and it's unfortunate it's that way. But when a woman is sure about you, when you are a sure thing in a woman's eyes, that she knows without a shadow of a doubt you're not going anywhere, and she has you, you can expect the treatment that she gives you, which may have been really good before. Why do you think so many guys, they get married and all of a sudden the sex stops? Or becomes few and far between? And when it was once a lot of fun and freaky and all that, now she does the bare minimum because she's got you. This is why so many times that a lot of relationships that went on for years, they get married and boom, they're divorced within a couple of years because both parties, and I'll be fair here, men and women become so certain of each other, they stop trying. They stop giving a crap. And guys do it too. Guys let themselves go. Guys stop taking their lady out. They stop whining and dining her like they did when they were dating and all that, you know, because it goes both ways. I'm being fair here. But also the women do too. They let themselves go physically. They stop being all the good things they once had that they attracted the guy in the first place. This is one of the main reasons I'm against marriage. There's a lot of reasons. The courts are against the guys, and you know what my opinion on this, but also people start treating each other differently. When both parties know that the other person can leave like that, they're usually on their best behavior, especially women. Women need to know, and I know I'm going on here, guys, but I can't stress this enough. Women need to know that if they push you too far, if they disrespect you, if they're not treating you like they once did, you're gone and you can replace them like that. Only then are you going to get the best treatment and behavior. So when you put a ring on her finger, and that really slows down. That's giving too much certainty. Okay, it's unfortunate that it's that way. It really is, but it is what it is. I'm calling it for what it is, based on a lot of life experience. Women cannot love you if they don't respect you, and if you put up with all their crap and BS and bad treatment, they're not going to respect you and sure as hell not love you. And for people that are watching this have experienced this and lived long enough, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, back to the story. Now, I'm doing a lot of talking today, guys, but there's a lot of good lessons and teaching to go in this story here, which I know is why many of you guys are here. So anyhow, he married her. Now, can you imagine how this is going to go? They got married, blah, blah, blah. Things didn't work out. 2010, they were married. Therefore, Victoria got her Spanish residence card and she came to live with me in Spain. It didn't take long for the fighting to start again. Imagine that. I never in a million years would ever think that the fighting would start all over again once you put a ring on her finger. She once complained that I spent more money on myself than I did on her. That I only bought the best for myself and garbage for her. Not only untrue, but excuse me for spending the money I earn how I wish. I also insisted that she find work. Good for you. She can get off her butt and do something. Where I come from, women work, but she really wasn't happy with that. That's because she's hot, and she's been used to being treated like the queen her whole life. She wanted to stay home and paint crappy pictures no one ever bought. She eventually got a job teaching English at a local language school. It wasn't the money. I was still paying the mortgage, all the bills, and even giving her a cash allowance. It was the principle. She wasn't going to sit around all day doing sweet Fanny Adams and expected me to pay for everything. Well, that's exactly what she expected, and that's exactly what she got for a time being. However, in 2012, I threw her out. Yes. Hallelujah. It was because of something else, which I won't go into. Well, now I need to know what it is, dude. You can't leave me hanging like that. As far as I know, she never cheated on me, but I certainly didn't cheat on her. But her constant bitching meant she was always on thin ice. Luckily, I had a prenuptial agreement made before the wedding, something Victoria wanted. There were no children, so the separation was simple enough. I bought her a ticket back to Cape Town and £10,000 in cash, simply as F-off money. Thank God for the prenup, dude. I never bothered about finalizing the divorce until 2015 when Victoria contacted me informing me she wanted to remarry. So Victoria found another sucker. Not hard if she was in her 20s and hot. And obviously she has to work quick because she's approaching the 3-0. So I went to Cape Town and had to go to a court to formally end the marriage. Victoria was at the court to get a copy of the papers. She said her new husband to me was a real man who knew how to keep her happy. She's just baiting you. She's baiting you to get into a fight. Better not to do it. Just shake your head, say whatever. I wished him a silent good luck mate in my head, smiled, and walked away. I heard from Victoria's sister the marriage has lasted until 2018. I don't know the circumstances, but I bet Victoria is still searching for her lost father to this day. Well, that's it. That's my South African story. It might be a bit long, but it made it as brief as I could while retaining the salient points. Well, bro, I appreciate you sending the story. That was a good one. That was a very great example of the many things I warn about. Red flags, women with daddy issues, putting her on a pedestal, treating her like the queen, chasing after her and giving her everything when she doesn't deserve it. That's all there. It's a great lesson. But I'm so glad that eventually you got rid of her. You said, I think it was 2012, so you've had 9 years of freedom. But look, in spite of one of the things I've said, I get you had to learn. You know, I mean, we've all made mistakes that we certainly wish we'd go back and change. You know, I certainly did. But then again, we wouldn't gain the wisdom that we gained. And I do what I do to share these experiences, these stories to help young guys out that won't go through the same crap that we all went through, especially as older guys that didn't have YouTube and access to information like this back then. But anyhow, guys, this was a really good one. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Always pay attention to red flags, okay? And you can even squeeze in the hot crazy scale into this story here. Obviously smoking hot, so she's got some crazy. And the girl's got daddy issues. You can expect turmoil, okay? Because they got abandonment issues, or a lot of times they'll start fights and drama just to see how much you really care. In that psychotic mindset, well, if I create so much drama and he still stays with me, then he must really care. Is it worth it, guys, to deal with that? Hell no. Let alone marry it. And also put her on the pedestal, giving her everything. He kept giving and giving and giving. Wasn't enough for her, no matter what. And the more he gave, the more she had respected him less, because she knew she was being an a-hole. She knew how she was treating him, and he still kept giving and giving and giving. And worse yet, after he left South Africa and got out of there, Eventually, he missed her, started remembering the past in a different light, gave her a second chance, and married her. Big mistake. And again, this guy, he knows this, and I'm not doing this to give him a hard time. It's just to help guys learn lessons. So hopefully this story will help somebody out there watching this, wherever you may be in this world. But anyhow, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.